Jake Morrison pulled his old truck into the driveway as the first drops of rain began to fall. The weather forecast had warned of a bad storm coming through Montana, and he could see the dark clouds rolling in from the west. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and the wind was picking up fast. He grabbed his groceries from the back of the truck and hurried toward his small farmhouse. Jake had lived alone on the farm for 3 years now, ever since his wife Mary died in a car accident. The silence of the empty house still felt strange to him, but he kept busy with his wheat fields and the few animals he raised. The storm hit harder than expected. Jake stood at his kitchen window, watching the rain pour down and lightning flash across the sky. The wind howled around the house, making the old wooden frames creak and groan. He had seen plenty of storms in his 42 years, but this one seemed different somehow. A bright flash lit up the entire sky, brighter than any lightning Jake had ever seen. The light was blue-white and lasted for several seconds. Then came a sound like thunder, but deeper and longer. The ground beneath his feet shook, and the dishes in his kitchen rattled on their shelves. Jake pressed his face against the window, trying to see what had happened. In the distance, toward the middle of his wheat field, he could see a strange orange glow. It flickered and pulsed like a fire, but the rain should have put out any normal fire by now. He grabbed his raincoat and a flashlight from the kitchen drawer. Something had crashed in his field, and he needed to see what it was. Maybe it was a small plane or a piece of space junk. Either way, he could not just ignore it. The walk to the crash site took longer than usual because the rain made everything slippery and hard to see. Jake's boots sank into the muddy ground with each step. Lightning continued to flash overhead, giving him quick glimpses of the path ahead. When he finally reached the spot, Jake stopped and stared in amazement. There was a hole in the ground about 10 feet wide and maybe 3 feet deep. The edges of the hole were smooth and black, as if the earth had been burned. In the center of the hole, something metal gleamed in the orange light. Jake climbed down into the crater carefully. The object was not very big, maybe the size of a small car, but it had a strange shape. It was round and smooth with no sharp edges or corners. The surface looked like silver metal, but it seemed to glow with its own light. As Jake got closer, he noticed that part of the object had split open. There was a crack running along one side, and through the crack he could see something inside. He pointed his flashlight toward the opening and gasped. Inside the strange craft was a child. The child looked to be about 8 years old, but there was something different about her. Her skin was pale blue, like the color of winter sky just before dawn. Her hair was silver and seemed to shimmer in the light. Strange markings covered her arms and face, like tattoos but more delicate and beautiful. The child was not moving. Her eyes were closed, and Jake could see that she was hurt. There was a cut on her forehead, and her clothes were torn. She looked so small and helpless lying there in the crashed ship. Jake did not think twice. He reached through the crack and carefully lifted the child out of the wreckage. She was lighter than he expected, and her skin felt warm despite the cold rain. As soon as he touched her, the strange markings on her arms began to glow softly. He wrapped her in his raincoat and carried her back to the house as quickly as he could. The child did not wake up during the journey, but Jake could feel her breathing against his chest. She was alive, and that was what mattered most. Back in his kitchen, Jake laid the child on his couch and turned on all the lights. Now he could see her more clearly, and what he saw made him even more confused. She definitely was not human, but she looked human enough that Jake's protective instincts kicked in. He cleaned the cut on her forehead with warm water and put a bandage on it. The child's breathing was steady, but shallow. Jake remembered taking care of his nephew when the boy had pneumonia, and he used some of the same techniques now. The child's clothes were made of some kind of fabric Jake had never seen before. It was soft, but seemed to be waterproof. Under the torn outer layer, she wore a simple white dress that had strange symbols embroidered along the edges. Jake sat in his chair next to the couch and watched the child sleep. He had so many questions. Where had she come from? How had she ended up in that crashed ship? Were there others like her? And most importantly, what was he supposed to do now? The storm continued to rage outside, but Jake barely noticed. His full attention was on the strange child sleeping on his couch. Every now and then she would move slightly or make a small sound, but she did not wake up. As the hours passed, Jake noticed something amazing. The cut on the child's forehead was healing, much faster than it should have. By morning, there was barely a mark where the bandage had been. The child's breathing had also become stronger and more regular. When the sun finally came up, the child opened her eyes. They were the most beautiful eyes Jake had ever seen, like looking into deep purple gemstones. She looked around the room, with curiosity but no fear, as if she was trying to understand where she was. The child sat up slowly and looked directly at Jake. She said something in a language he had never heard before. The words sounded musical, like singing, but he could not understand any of it. Jake spoke gently to her. "Hey there, little one. You are safe now. I found you in my field last night. You were hurt, but you look much better now." The child tilted her head and listened carefully to his words. She seemed to understand that he was trying to help her, even though she could not understand what he was saying. Jake went to his kitchen and came back with a glass of water and some crackers. The child accepted both gratefully. She drank the water slowly and nibbled on the crackers while continuing to study Jake's face over the next few hours. Jake tried to communicate with the child using simple gestures and words. He pointed to himself and said, "Jake," several times, until she repeated it back to him. Her pronunciation was perfect, which surprised him. The child had no trouble learning new words. Within a few hours she could say water, food, house, and thank you. She was clearly very intelligent, much more so than most 8-year-olds Jake had known. As the day went on, Jake noticed more strange things about the child. When she touched his dying houseplant, it immediately became green and healthy again. When his old dog Charlie came inside, the child could somehow communicate with him without words. Charlie, who usually barked at strangers, lay down next to her and put his head in her lap. Jake decided to call her Luna because of her silver hair and the way she seemed to glow softly in the dim light. When he told her this name, she smiled for the first time and repeated it back to him. That night, Jake made up a bed for Luna in his spare room. As he tucked her in, she looked up at him with those amazing purple eyes and said in carefully pronounced English, "Thank you, Jake. You saved Luna." Jake felt something warm and protective stir in his chest. He had not felt this way since Mary died. This strange child had somehow found her way into his life, and he was already starting to love her like the daughter he and Mary had never been able to have. He had no idea that by saving Luna's life, he had just broken one of the most sacred laws in the galaxy. 5 years had passed since Jake found Luna in his wheat field. The strange little girl had grown into a 13-year-old who looked almost human, except for her pale blue skin and silver hair. Jake had gotten used to her appearance, but he still had to be careful when other people came around. Luna had learned English perfectly and spoke with no accent at all. She was incredibly smart and picked up new things faster than any child Jake had ever met. She could do math problems in her head that would challenge high school students. And she read books meant for adults. Jake had enrolled Luna in the local school when she turned 9. He told everyone she was his adopted daughter from overseas, and most people believed the story. Luna was careful to hide her more unusual abilities. When she was around other kids, the hardest part was explaining her appearance. Jake told people that Luna had a rare skin condition that made her look different. Most folks in their small Montana town were polite enough not to ask too many questions, especially since Jake was well respected in the community. Betty Collins, who lived on the farm next to Jake's, had become like a grandmother to Luna. Betty was in her 70s and had always been kind to Jake, especially after Mary died. She often brought cookies and helped Luna with her homework. "That girl is special," Betty told Jake one afternoon as they watched Luna play in the garden. "I have never seen a child so smart and so kind at the same time." Jake nodded, but he worried about Luna's abilities becoming too obvious. Just that morning, he had found her in the garden talking to a group of rabbits. The animals sat in a circle around her, listening as if they understood every word she said. Luna's powers had grown stronger over the years. She could make plants grow just by touching them, and sick animals seemed to get better when she was around. Jake's farm had become the most productive in the area, though he made sure not to let it become too obvious. The most amazing thing was how Luna seemed to know things she should not know. She could predict when it would rain days before the weather service announced it. She knew when animals were going to have babies and could tell if someone was feeling sick just by looking at them. At school, Luna had to work hard to appear normal. Her teacher, Dr. Helen Parker, was a smart woman who noticed that Luna was different from other kids. Dr. Parker had taught for 30 years and had never met a student quite like Luna. "Jake, I really think Luna should be tested for gifted programs," Dr. Parker said during a parent-teacher conference. "She finishes her work before I am done explaining it to the class. Yesterday, she corrected an error in her science textbook." Jake shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Luna is just a quick learner. I think she is fine in regular classes." "But she could be doing so much more," Dr. Parker insisted. "There are special schools for children with her abilities. She could get a much better education." "No," Jake said firmly. "Luna stays here with me. She is happy in your class." Dr. Parker looked puzzled by Jake's reaction, but she did not push the issue. She had noticed that Jake was very protective of Luna, almost to the point of being paranoid about anyone taking too much interest in her. What Dr. Parker did not know was that Jake had started researching government programs and military experiments. He had read stories about children being taken away from their families for special testing. The thought of losing Luna terrified him. Luna understood Jake's fears, even though they never talked about them directly. She was careful to make mistakes on purpose at school and tried not to stand out too much. But it was becoming harder as she got older and her abilities grew stronger. At home, Luna felt free to be herself. She helped Jake with the farm work, and her touch made everything grow better. The vegetables in their garden were bigger and tastier than anyone else's. The wheat fields produced more grain than they ever had before. Jake had also noticed that Luna was having strange dreams. Sometimes she would wake up speaking in that musical language he had heard the first night. She would tell him about dreams, of flying through space and living in cities made of crystal and light. "Do you think they are memories?" Luna asked Jake one morning after a particularly vivid dream. Jake poured her a glass of orange juice and sat down across from her at the kitchen table. "I do not know, sweetheart. Maybe they are just dreams." But Jake suspected they were more than dreams. Luna was remembering something from before the crash, something from wherever she had come from. He wondered if there were others like her out there, looking for her. The thought scared him. Jake had grown to love Luna like his own daughter. She had filled the empty space in his life that Mary's death had left behind. The idea of someone taking her away made him feel sick. Luna seemed to sense his worry. She reached across the table and took his hand. "I will never leave you, Jake. You are my real father now." Jake squeezed her hand gently. Luna's skin was always warm, and he could feel a slight tingling sensation whenever she touched him. It was one of the many small mysteries about her that he had learned to accept. As Luna grew older, she began asking more questions about her past. Jake had told her that her parents died in an accident, which was not exactly a lie. He showed her the place where he had found her, though the crater had long since been filled in and planted with wheat. "Do you think there are others like me?" Luna asked one day as they walked through the field. Jake was quiet for a moment. "I do not know, Luna. You are the only person like you that I have ever met." Luna nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes I feel like I'm supposed to be somewhere else, like there are people missing me." "Well, I would miss you if you were somewhere else," Jake said, trying to keep his voice light. Luna smiled and hugged his arm. "I would miss you too. More than anyone else in the whole universe." That night, Jake lay awake thinking about Luna's words. He had always known that someday someone might come looking for her. The crash had been too strange, too advanced for Earth technology. Luna was clearly not from this world, but over the years, Jake had started to hope that maybe no one would come. Maybe Luna's people thought she was dead. Maybe they had given up looking for her. Maybe she could just stay with him forever and live a normal, human life. These hopes were shattered one evening when strange lights appeared in the sky. Jake was washing dishes after dinner when Luna suddenly stopped reading her book and looked up at the ceiling. Her purple eyes had a distant look, as if she was listening to something Jake could not hear. "Jake," she said quietly, "there are lights outside." Jake dried his hands and went to the window. High above the farm, several bright lights moved slowly across the sky. They were not airplanes or helicopters. They moved too smoothly and made no sound at all. Luna joined him at the window. As she watched the lights, the markings on her arms began to glow softly. She pressed her hand against the glass and Jake could feel her trembling. "They are looking for something," Luna whispered. Jake put his arm around her shoulders. "What do you think they want?" Luna was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was very small. "I think they want me." The lights circled overhead for about an hour, then disappeared into the distance. Jake and Luna stood at the window. Long after they were gone, both wondering what would happen next. Over the following weeks, the lights appeared several more times. Luna's abilities became stronger and harder to control. Plants in the garden grew to enormous sizes overnight. Wild animals gathered around the farm as if they were being called by something. Jake knew their quiet life was about to change. Someone was looking for Luna and they were getting closer. He just hoped that when they found her, they would understand that she belonged with him now. Jake woke up to a sound he had never heard before. It was like a low humming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The windows in his bedroom were shaking slightly, and his old dog Charlie was whining and scratching at the door. The clock on his nightstand read 5:30 in the morning. Jake got out of bed and walked to the window. What he saw made his blood run cold. Massive ships floated in the sky above his farm. They were bigger than anything Jake had ever seen, larger than the biggest buildings in town. The ships were beautiful in a strange way, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with soft light. But their size was terrifying. Jake ran to Luna's room and knocked on the door. "Luna, wake up, we have visitors." Luna was already awake, sitting on her bed and staring out her window. The markings on her arms were glowing brighter than Jake had ever seen them. Her purple eyes reflected the light from the ships above. "I remember now," Luna said quietly. "I remember everything." Jake sat down next to her on the bed. "What do you remember?" "My real name is Princess Zara of the Luminari Empire," Luna said. "I was being sent away from my homeworld because someone wanted to hurt me. The ship was supposed to take me to a safe place, but it crashed here instead." Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Princess, Empire, these words meant that Luna was much more important than he had ever imagined. "Are those your people out there?" Jake asked, pointing toward the window. Luna nodded. "They found me. After all these years, they finally found me." Before Jake could say anything else, there was a bright flash of light in the backyard. When Jake's eyes adjusted, he saw that several tall figures had appeared near his house. They wore long robes that seemed to be made of light itself, and they moved with a grace that was definitely not human. "They are coming inside," Luna said. "Jake, I need you to know something. My people have laws about contact with other species. What you did, taking care of me, it is against our most sacred rules." Jake felt his heart start to race. "What kind of rules?" "No one is supposed to touch a member of the royal family except other Luminari. The punishment for breaking this law is death." Jake stared at Luna in shock. "Death? But I saved your life?" "I know," Luna said, taking his hand. "And I will not let them hurt you. You are my father now, and I will protect you." The front door of the house opened without anyone touching it. 3 tall figures walked into the living room. They were beautiful in an alien way, with the same pale blue skin and silver hair as Luna, but their faces were stern and cold. The tallest of the 3 stepped forward and spoke in that musical language Jake had heard Luna use in her dreams. Luna answered in the same language, her voice strong and clear. Jake could not understand the words, but he could tell they were arguing. Luna's voice got louder and more insistent, while the tall figure seemed to be giving orders. "Finally, Luna," Switch to English. Admiral Keth Voss, this is Jake Morrison. He saved my life and has been my father for 8 years. I will not allow any harm to come to him. The Admiral looked at Jake with disgust. This primitive creature has contaminated royal blood. The law is clear, Princess Zara. He must be executed immediately. No, Luna said, standing up. As she spoke, the entire house began to shake. The lights flickered, and Jake could hear the animals outside making frightened sounds. If you hurt Jake, you will have to kill me too. The Admiral took a step back. Princess, you do not understand what you are saying. This human has committed the ultimate crime against our people. He committed the ultimate act of love, Luna replied. He found a hurt child and saved her life. He fed me, cared for me, and loved me when I had no one else. If that is a crime, then your laws are wrong. Jake found his voice. Wait a minute. You are telling me that saving a child's life is against the law? Admiral Voss turned to Jake with cold eyes. You are not permitted to speak in the presence of royalty, human. He can speak, Luna said firmly. Jake, tell them what happened the night you found me. Jake looked at the intimidating alien figures, then at Luna's encouraging face. I found her crashed in my field during a storm. She was hurt and unconscious. I did what any decent person would do. I took her home and took care of her. You touched royal blood, Admiral Voss said. You fed her with your contaminated hands. You allowed her to live among your kind for years. These are crimes that cannot be forgiven. Then I guess I am a criminal, Jake said, standing up straighter. Because I would do it again tomorrow, Luna smiled at Jake's words. You see? This is why humans are special. They do not think about laws or consequences when someone needs help. They just help. One of the other aliens spoke quietly to Admiral Voss in their own language. The Admiral nodded and then addressed Luna again. Princess, your grandfather, Emperor Thalion, is coming here personally. He will decide what to do with the human. Luna's eyes widened. Grandfather is coming here, to Earth? Yes, this situation is unprecedented. A member of the royal family has never lived among aliens for so long. The Emperor must see for himself what has happened to you. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What does that mean for me? Admiral Voss looked at him with something that might have been pity. It means you will face the judgment of the most powerful being in the galaxy. And he has never shown mercy to those who break our laws. Luna moved closer to Jake. Grandfather will understand. He has to. Princess, Admiral Voss said gently, you have been away from our world for too long. You have forgotten our ways. The Emperor will not be swayed by human emotions. Then I will remind him of our ways, Luna said. I will show him what I have learned here. As if responding to her words, the markings on Luna's arms began to glow even brighter. The plants outside the window suddenly burst into bloom, even though it was still early spring. Jake could feel a warm energy flowing through the house. Admiral Voss stared at Luna in amazement. Your power. It has grown beyond anything we have seen before. Yes, Luna said. Living with humans has made me stronger, not weaker. Jake taught me about love and family and sacrifice. These emotions have enhanced my abilities. Jake watched in awe as Luna demonstrated her powers. She touched a dead plant on the windowsill, and it immediately came back to life. She held out her hand, and a small bird flew down to perch on her finger. This is impossible, one of the other aliens whispered. Royal power should not work this way. It works this way because I learned it from the best teacher in the universe, Luna said. Looking at Jake, I learned it from someone who showed me unconditional love. Admiral Voss spoke into a device on his wrist. Jake could not understand the words, but he could tell the Admiral was reporting something important. The Emperor's ship will arrive within the hour, Admiral Voss announced. Princess, you should prepare yourself. And human, he looked at Jake, you should make peace with whatever gods you believe in. Jake felt scared, but he also felt proud. He had raised Luna with love and kindness, and she had grown into an amazing young woman. If that was worth dying for, then so be it. Luna took Jake's hand. Do not worry. I will not let them hurt you. You saved my life once, and now I will save yours. Outside, more ships were arriving. The sky was full of alien vessels, and Jake realized that his quiet farm had become the center of something much bigger than he had ever imagined. The Emperor was coming, and Jake's fate would soon be decided. The Emperor's ship was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It was massive, easily 10 times larger than the other ships, and it seemed to be made of pure crystal that caught and reflected light in amazing ways. When it landed in Jake's wheat field, the ground did not even bend under its weight. Emperor Thalion stepped out of the ship surrounded by dozens of guards. He was taller than the other luminari, with long silver hair that seemed to move like liquid mercury. His robes were covered in symbols that glowed and shifted constantly. Even from a distance, Jake could feel the power radiating from him. "Grandfather," Luna whispered, and for the first time since the ships arrived, Jake heard fear in her voice. The Emperor walked slowly toward the house, his guards forming a circle around him. Admiral Voss and the other luminari immediately dropped to one knee as he approached. "Rise," Emperor Thalion said in accented but clear English. "I want to see this human who dares to touch royal blood." Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. He had faced angry bulls and dangerous storms, but nothing had prepared him for meeting the ruler of an alien empire. "You are Jake Morrison," the Emperor said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir," Jake replied. "Do you know who I am? You are Luna's grandfather, and you are here to decide if I should die for saving her life." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You speak boldly for someone facing execution." "I speak honestly," Jake said. "I found a hurt child and helped her. If that makes me a criminal in your eyes, then so be it." Emperor Thalion studied Jake for a long moment. "Show me where you found her." Jake led the group to the spot in the wheat field where Luna's ship had crashed 8 years ago. There was no sign of the crater now, just healthy wheat growing in neat rows. "She was unconscious and bleeding," Jake said. "The ship was broken open, and she was trapped inside. I pulled her out and carried her to my house." "You touched her," the Emperor said. "Of course I touched her. She was dying." "You fed her with your own hands. She was hungry. You allowed her to live in your home, to eat your food, to learn your ways? She was a child who needed a family." The Emperor turned to Luna. "And you, child, do you remember your real home?" Luna lifted her chin. "I remember my birth world, but this is my real home. Jake is my real father." "Impossible," the Emperor said. "You are Princess Zara, heir to the Luminari throne. You cannot be the daughter of a human farmer." "Blood does not make a family," Luna said. "Love makes a family. Jake loved me when he had no reason to. He protected me when he gained nothing from it. He taught me to be kind and strong and brave. If that does not make him my father, then I do not understand what family means." "Emperor," Thalion looked angry, "you have been corrupted by human emotions. You have forgotten your duty to your people." "No," Luna said firmly. "I have learned what duty really means. It means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. It means doing what is right even when it is difficult. Jake taught me these things." The Emperor raised his hand, and energy crackled around his fingers. "Enough. The human will be executed according to our law." "Then you will have to execute me too," Luna said, stepping in front of Jake. "You would die for this human?" As he would die for me." Jake put his hand on Luna's shoulder. "Luna, you do not have to do this." "Yes, I do," she said. "You saved my life. Now I save yours." Suddenly, alarms began sounding from the Luminari ships. Admiral Voss spoke urgently into his communication device, then turned to the Emperor. "Your Majesty, we are under attack. A fleet of destroyer ships has entered the system." Emperor Thalion's expression changed immediately. "How many ships?" "At least 50, possibly more. They will be here within minutes." Jake had no idea what destroyer ships were, but he could see fear on the faces of the Luminari soldiers. These were clearly dangerous enemies. "Can we defend against them?" the Emperor asked. "Not here, Your Majesty. We have only a few ships, and they have caught us unprepared." Luna stepped forward. "Let me help." Admiral Voss looked shocked. "Princess, you are not trained for battle." but I am stronger than I used to be, Luna said. Living with humans has enhanced my abilities. I can do things that pure Luminari cannot do. The Emperor stared at his granddaughter. What do you mean? Luna held out her hands and energy began to flow around her. But this energy was different from what Jake had seen before. It was brighter and more powerful, and it seemed to pulse with emotion. Human feelings make Luminari power stronger, Luna explained. Love, courage, determination. These emotions focus our abilities in ways we never learned on our homeworld. That is impossible, the Emperor said. Watch, Luna replied. She closed her eyes and concentrated. The markings on her arms blazed with light, and Jake could feel energy building in the air around them. Plants throughout the field began to grow rapidly, reaching toward Luna as if drawn by her power. Then Luna opened her eyes and pointed toward the sky. A beam of pure energy shot upward, bright enough to be seen even in daylight. In the distance, Jake could hear explosions as the beam struck something far above. One destroyer ship destroyed, Admiral Voss reported, staring at his instruments in amazement. How? The Emperor demanded. Princess Zara's energy beam was 10 times more powerful than anything we have ever recorded, Admiral Voss said. Her power levels are beyond measurement. More alarm sounds filled the air. Jake looked up and saw dark shapes moving among the Luminari ships. These new vessels were uglier than the crystal ships, with sharp edges and weapons that glowed red. They are landing ground forces, Admiral Voss reported. We cannot hold them off. Jake stepped forward. What do you need us to do? The Emperor looked at him with surprise. Us? Luna and me. We are a team. If she can fight these things, then I want to help. You are only human, the Emperor said. Yes, and humans do not give up, Jake replied. Luna, what do you need? Luna smiled at him. I need someone to watch my back while I concentrate. Can you do that? Jake picked up his hunting rifle from where he had left it by the house. I have been protecting you for 8 years. I am not going to stop now. The first destroyer soldiers appeared at the edge of the field. They were tall and thin, with dark armor and weapons that crackled with electricity. They moved toward the group of Luminari with obvious hostile intent. Stay close to me, Luna told Jake. Then she called out to the Luminari soldiers. Form a circle around the Emperor. I will handle the attackers. Princess, you cannot face them alone, Admiral Voss protested. She is not alone, Jake said. Standing next to Luna with his rifle ready, Luna raised her hands again, and this time the energy that flowed from her was incredible. It formed a barrier around the Luminari ships, protecting them from the enemy. Weapons. At the same time, beams of light shot from her fingers, striking the destroyer soldiers with perfect accuracy. Jake had never seen anything like it. Luna moved like a dancer, graceful and deadly at the same time. Her power seemed limitless, fed by emotions that pure Luminari had never experienced. The battle lasted only minutes. When it was over, all the destroyer ships had been destroyed, or driven away. Luna stood in the middle of the wheat field, glowing with fading energy. While Jake kept watch beside her, Emperor Thalion stared at his granddaughter in complete shock. How is this possible? Luna looked at him with tired but determined eyes. Because Jake taught me that love is the strongest force in the universe. And love makes everything else stronger too. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Perhaps our laws need to be reconsidered. 3 days after the battle, representatives from dozens of alien species arrived on Earth. They came to witness something that had never happened before. In Galactic history, a revision of the most sacred Luminari law, Jake stood in his front yard, watching ships of every shape and size land in his wheat fields. Some were sleek and silver like the Luminari vessels, others were dark and angular, and a few looked like they were made of living coral. He had never imagined that so many different types of beings existed in the universe. Are you nervous? Luna asked, walking up beside him. Terrified, Jake admitted. A few days ago, the most important thing I worried about was whether we would get enough rain for the wheat. Now I am about to speak in front of rulers from across the galaxy. Luna took his hand. You will be fine. Just tell them the truth like you always do. Emperor Thalion had called for a special council meeting to discuss what had happened on Earth. The battle with the destroyer ships had been broadcast across the galaxy, and everyone had seen Luna's incredible display of power. More importantly, they had seen how human emotions could enhance alien abilities. The council is ready for you, Admiral Voss said, approaching them with respect that Jake still found strange. Ever since the battle, the Luminari had treated Jake like an honored guest instead of a criminal. Jake straightened his best shirt and followed Luna toward the large platform that had been set up in the middle of his farm. Hundreds of alien beings sat in organized sections, each group representing a different world or species. At the center of the platform sat Emperor Thalion on a throne made of crystal. Jake Morrison of Earth, the Emperor announced, his voice carrying clearly across the field. You stand accused of breaking our most sacred law by touching Princess Zara of the Luminari Empire. How do you answer this charge? Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. I am guilty of touching her, feeding her, caring for her, and loving her as my own daughter. If those things are crimes, then yes, I am guilty. A murmur went through the crowd of aliens. Many of them had never heard a being admit to breaking Luminari law so openly. And do you understand that the penalty for this crime has always been death? The Emperor continued. I understand that, Jake said. But I also understand that sometimes laws are wrong. Any law that punishes someone for saving a child's life is a bad law. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. You would dare to judge Luminari law? I would dare to judge any law by a simple test, Jake replied. Does it make the universe a better place or a worse place? Your law would have let Luna die in that crashed ship. It would have prevented her from learning about love and family. It would have stopped her from becoming the amazing person she is today. That makes it a bad law. Luna stepped up beside Jake. Grandfather, may I speak? You may, Princess. Luna looked out at the assembled aliens, her silver hair shining in the sunlight. 8 years ago, I was a lonely child who knew only duty and rules. I had never experienced unconditional love or felt what it meant to truly belong somewhere. Jake gave me those things. She gestured toward Jake. This man asked for nothing in return. He gained no wealth or power from helping me. He simply saw someone who needed help, and he helped. That is what humans do. But you are Luminari royalty, called out a voice from the crowd. Your bloodline is sacred. My bloodline gave me power, Luna replied. But Jake's love taught me how to use that power correctly. Watch. Luna closed her eyes and held out her hands. Energy flowed from her, but instead of being destructive like during the battle, it was creative. The damaged wheat in the fields began to repair itself. Flowers bloomed in patterns of incredible beauty. The very air seemed to become cleaner and fresher. This is what I learned from humans, Luna said as the energy faded. Power means nothing without compassion. Strength means nothing without kindness. My abilities are stronger now because I understand what they should be used for. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a scientist from Earth who had been studying Luna's abilities, stepped forward with permission from the Emperor. Your Majesty, our research shows that Princess Zara's emotional development has created new neural pathways that enhance her natural powers. The human concepts of love and family have literally made her brain more advanced. The Emperor looked thoughtful. You were saying that contact with humans improved my granddaughter? Not just improved, Dr. Rodriguez said. Evolved. She represents the next step in Luminari development. An alien that looked like a giant butterfly spoke up from the crowd. If this is true, then perhaps our own young could benefit from similar contact with humans. Impossible, said another voice. Humans are primitive. What could they teach advanced species? Jake found himself speaking without planning to. We could teach you that being advanced does not mean being cold. We could teach you that strength comes from helping others, not from following rules that hurt people. We could teach you that family is not about blood or species, but about who you choose to love and protect. The crowd was silent for a moment. Then slowly some of the aliens began to nod in agreement. Emperor Thalion stood up from his throne. Jake Morrison, you have given us much to think about. Your actions have not only saved my granddaughter's life, but they have shown us possibilities we never considered. The Emperor raised his hand, and his voice carried across the entire assembly. By the authority granted to me as ruler of the Luminari Empire, I hereby declare that the law forbidding contact with royal family members is officially changed. From this day forward, acts of genuine compassion and care toward any member of the royal family will be considered acts of honor, not crimes. The crowd erupted in surprised voices and discussion. Jake felt Luna squeeze his hand tightly. Furthermore, the Emperor continued, I name Jake Morrison as the first royal guardian of the Luminari Empire. He will serve as Princess Zara's protector and advisor, with all the rights and honors that position brings. Jake stared at the Emperor in shock. I do not know what that means. It means you are officially part of our family now, Luna said, tears streaming down her blue cheeks. It means you will never have to worry about anyone taking me away from you. And it means, the Emperor added with something that might have been a smile, that you will help us establish formal relations between Earth and the Luminari Empire. Your farm will become the first interplanetary embassy. Betty Collins, who had been watching from the edge of the crowd, called out, Does that mean I can still bring cookies? The Emperor looked confused, but Luna laughed. Yes, Betty, you can still bring cookies. 6 months later, Jake's farm had been transformed into the most unusual embassy in the galaxy. The old farmhouse had been expanded with technology from a dozen different worlds, but it still looked like a home. The wheat fields were now also used as landing areas for diplomatic ships, and the garden had become a place where beings from different planets could meet and learn from each other. Luna spent her time traveling between Earth and the Luminari, homeworld, serving as an ambassador and teacher. She showed other young Luminari how human emotions could enhance their abilities. While also learning more about her own heritage and responsibilities, Jake had adapted to his new role as royal guardian better than anyone expected. He treated visiting alien dignitaries the same way he treated everyone else, with simple kindness and respect. This approach had led to more successful negotiations than centuries of formal diplomacy. You know, Jake said to Luna one evening, as they sat on the porch watching ships come and go in the sky, when I found you in that field, I thought I was just helping one lost child. You were, Luna replied, leaning against his shoulder. But sometimes helping one person changes everything. Jake looked up at the stars, which no longer seemed distant and cold. They were full of friends and family now, beings who had learned that the universe was a better place when people helped each other. I love you, Dad, Luna said quietly. I love you too, sweetheart, Jake replied, more than all the stars in the sky. In the distance, a ship from the butterfly people was landing, bringing young students to learn about human emotions. Tomorrow, Jake would teach them how to plant seeds and tend a garden, while Luna showed them how feelings could make their natural abilities stronger. It was not the life Jake had planned, but it was exactly the life he wanted. He had saved one fallen star, and in return she had brought him the entire universe.